Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 140, The Superhero Secret. The episode begins with Ash and the gang walking through a forest as they usually do, when they suddenly saw a shadow in the trees, accompanied by a strange noise. They then see the shadow jumping from tree to tree, where it finally reveals itself in the sunlight, allowing Brock to identify it as a Gligar, which he explains is a bat-like Pokemon, which is temperamental and shy of people. Ash looks to his Pokedex for more information, but it seemed like Brock knew everything about it already. Damn. While they were talking about it, the Gligar had since ran off, but Ash wasn't concerned, as although he had just found out that it was shy of people, he claimed that it was probably just shy of normies, not people like him, and he tried to call out for Gligar. Suddenly, though, the ground collapses under Ash and the gang's feet as they fall into a hole. Ash questions how the fuck this was possible, even though it should have been obvious, as Team Rocket reveal themselves and recite their motto, revealing their plan to trap Ash and the gang in the hole by putting a bamboo grate over it and then filling it up with a whole bunch of water, so that they could steal Pikachu when he floats to the top of the water and simply leave Ash and the gang in the hole. They proceed to do as they planned, as Jesse and James operate the water pump, allowing Meowth to spray mounds and mounds of water inside the hole. Even as the water almost began to reach Ash and the gang's head, Ash didn't panic, as he knew that Pikachu could just Thunderbolt Team Rocket away as usual. However, when he tried to order Pikachu to do so, he was immediately stopped by Misty and Brock, who warned him that if Pikachu used Thunderbolt, then they would all get electrocuted since they were in water. I feel like Ash should have known this by now. Misty may have regretted stopping Ash though, as when the water gets up to her head, this causes her to drop Togepi down into the water, and Togepi begins to drown, and she panics immensely. In a Deus Ex Machina moment though, the Gligar from earlier appears, shattering the bamboo grate at the top of the hole, and saves Togepi from the water, carrying him up to a tree. As Ash and the gang question why the fuck Gligar just ran up to a random tree, a man, dressed like a Gligar, then jumps up next to him by climbing up the tree. And the man then loudly declares Team Rocket to release the people from the hole, of course not knowing their names. Team Rocket aren't intimidated whatsoever though, and just question who the fuck he was, with Ash and the gang asking the same question. This leads the Gligar-dressed man to perform his own Team Rocket-like motto, where he reveals that he was Gligar Man, a superhero who was the defender of the defenseless. Obvious fucking Batman parody here, good job, Pokemon. But even after doing his motto, Team Rocket remarked that they have never heard of him, which just embarrasses Gligar Man, as he proceeds to fall down in the tree in embarrassment. Meowth then proceeds to make fun of the Gligar outfit, questioning why the man seemed to be wearing long underwear, which just embarrasses Gligar Man even more. He was practically about to fall out of the tree at this point. Poor Gligar Man just can't fucking help his ego getting beaten, as Team Rocket continue to just taunt him about how he was obviously not a fucking superhero, because he was too unfit and too much of a goddamn loser and shit, and Gligar Man's about to have a fucking mental breakdown, when suddenly Misty pipes up and argues that even though she didn't know him either, she knew that Gligar Man must be a superhero, because he went out of his way to save Togepi. Pleased that someone finally appreciated him, this encourages Gligar Man to take action and have his Gligar attack Team Rocket. Gligar goes for Jessie first, attacking her face, causing her to flail around and hit James and Meowth in the process. James, not wanting to get absolutely beat to shit, manages to convince Jessie to stand in one spot after he yells at her too much. But as the shuddering Jessie stands in one spot, Gligar then turns around and points his stinger at James, leading James to command Meowth to go and attack. Meowth protested, as he was scared as well, but he went in with his Fury Swipes, but Gligar just dodged the attack by jumping off of Jessie, meaning that Meowth had scratched Jessie's face in the process, and this severely angered Jessie as she then proceeded to beat Meowth's ass. Jessie's cut off though, as Gligar returns to attack yet again, leading Team Rocket to run off in fear, as Gligar Man happily claims that he had beat evil. Let's go, Gligar Man, you did it. As Ash and the gang climb out of the hole due to the bamboo grate being destroyed, they look up and see Gligar Man try and jump out of the tree and do a super cool superhero flip as a victory dance. However, he fails and falls down to the ground face first. He tries to cover up for his failure by quickly getting up and returning Togepi to Misty, who thanks him very sincerely, despite him just making a fool of himself. She didn't care. She just cared that Togepi was safe. However, Gligar Man runs into a bush anyways, in embarrassment, and proceeds to get on his motorcycle that he hit on the bushes, and speeds away, along with his Gligar. But not before informing Ash and the gang to always give Gligar Man a call if they needed him, giving them a Gligar whistle to call upon him if they needed. Ash and the gang observed this whistle, not having seen anything like it before, when suddenly, a girl on a bike rushes up to them out of nowhere and asks if they had saw Gligar Man anywhere, insinuating that she knew who he was, when she added that she hoped that he didn't cause them any trouble. Misty assures her that he didn't, still completely grateful to have gotten her Togepi back, much to the girl's relief. Ash then questions her why she wanted to know about Gligar Man's whereabouts anyways, but Brock cuts him off, being attracted to this girl, and he tries to flirt with her, asking her name. The girl reveals that her name was Latoya, but does her best to reject Brock's advances, as Misty thankfully pulls him away, so he didn't embarrass himself any further. Ash then got back to his original questioning, asking Latoya if the reason why she was so interested in Gligar Man was because he was a superhero, but Latoya rebutted that Gligar Man only thought he was a superhero. He wasn't actually one. Ash questions how Latoya knew this, thinking that maybe she knew who Gligar Man truly was. Latoya panics at this question and bikes away as fast as she could. Ash remarks that this was very suspicious. Was she maybe a supervillain trying to ruin Gligar Man's reputation? Who knows? All that Ash was sure of was that he doubted Latoya in some way. Gligar Man must have been a true superhero. I mean, the way that he handled his Gligar was so impressive that he must have known what he was doing. With Team Rocket dealt with and Gligar Man gone, Ash and the gang decided to continue on their journey, where they eventually arrived in a town and stumbled upon a store that happened to be selling Gligar Man merchandise, implying that this may have been Gligar Man's hometown. They overhear some of the store clerks talking about how popular Gligar Man was in the town, and go up to them to ask them about Gligar Man, hoping that they would know more. But when they do, the store clerks are just interested in getting them to buy shit, so they essentially force them into their store. Right before they go into the store, Brock spots Latoya in the window, and excitedly rushes in, ahead of Ash and Misty, wanting to greet Latoya. Ash butts in, still suspicious of Latoya, questioning her once again if she knew anything about Gligar Man. Latoya simply stated that she couldn't reveal anything, even if she wanted to, which just made Ash even more suspicious. But then, Latoya's father, known as Mr. Parker, came up. After introducing himself as the store's owner and stating that his daughter was working for him, reveals that he knew everything about Gligar Man, stating he even had a video of him in action that he had recovered. Ash was skeptical, but he sat down and watched the video, and sure enough, it was a video of Gligar Man and his Gligar battling against a giant insectoid monster and beating the shit out of it. However, Ash and Brock eventually realized that there were a few discrepancies in the video. Most notably, Gligar Man was a lot thinner in the video than he was now, suspiciously being about the same size now as Mr. Parker. Anyways, Mr. Parker instantly tries to change the subject by just rebutting that since the video was from many years ago, Gligar Man simply could have looked different now, and proceeds to throw a whole bunch of merchandise in Ash and the gang's hands to distract them even more. It was clear that he was hiding something. Latoya wasn't the only suspicious one. Mr. Parker only began to get more suspicious as Togepi suddenly began tugging on his leg, indicating that it had taken a liking to him. This leads Misty to come to the conclusion that Mr. Parker might be Gligar Man, as if there was anyone Togepi would be taking a liking to after what had happened today, it was Gligar Man, since he saved it. Mr. Parker instantly denies this, but says Misty's name in the process when he says that her theory was bullshit. This leads Misty to just confirm that Mr. Parker was Gligar Man, as Gligar Man was the only person in the town who could possibly know her name. Brock was still doubtful, so he grabbed a Gligar mask that was on the merchandise shelf and put it on Mr. Parker, and realized that he looked exactly like Gligar Man did, which only further cemented the fact that Mr. Parker was Gligar Man. Ash is very excited by this, and asks if Gligar Man had a secret cave or some shit. You know, like the Bat Cave from Batman? Oh, okay, no, I'm joking. Brock also asks Gligar Man several questions, but they all involve Latoya, asking if he could marry her, if he could date her, if he could fuck her. Okay, not that. But the point was, Gligar Man was getting absolutely bombarded with questions at this point. This leads Gligar Man to tell Ash and Brock to shut the fuck up as he clamps their mouths closed, explaining that if they kept talking, then people would find out his secret identity, stating that he really didn't want that to happen. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was using binoculars and some listening devices to spy on the store and overheard the conversation. As revenge, they plotted to try and unmask Gligar Man, as they knew that Gligar Man didn't want that to happen, and they wanted to get back at him. Since they were dealing with a superhero, Jesse got the idea to dress up as supervillains while they did their evil plan, dressing up in a black outfit, while James and the Elf decided to dress up in Metapod costumes, since they didn't think it was worth it to dress up as actual supervillains when dealing with a superhero who barely even was a superhero and was really just a random-ass dude in disguise who couldn't even do anything. Despite Mr. Parker's pleas for Ash to keep quiet so his identity wouldn't be revealed, Ash wouldn't stop loudly asking about if Mr. Parker had a secret cave as his base. So, he decided to show Ash for himself so that he would finally shut the fuck up, although he made him promise that he would never tell anyone about what he saw. Mr. Parker and Latoya proceeded to take Ash and the gang to their family mansion, which had a base underneath. Before they got to the base, though, Latoya revealed that the reason why she claimed her dad wasn't a superhero when Ash asked originally was because Gligar Man originally wasn't a superhero, but merely a fictional character he made up stories about so that people would buy action figures of him since his business was failing and he needed a new IP to make action figures out of. He eventually started dressing up as Gligar Man and making all of those movies to draw even more attention to the action figures, and would pull fake stunts around town to make people think that Gligar Man was actually real. So like he would set up false situations so he could act like he was saving the day, so that people would become inspired by Gligar Man and therefore buy more toys. So he was a scammer. After playing Gligar Man in these false scenarios, though, he realized that acting like a superhero was a lot more fun than just being a boring-ass business guy, so he decided to become Gligar Man for real. So, I mean, even if he had malicious intentions in the beginning, he did become a good guy in the end, because now he was a genuine superhero, so I guess that's all that matters. Mr. Parker then declared that he would never stop actually being Gligar Man, because people needed help in the city all the time. This led Latoya to state her concerns for her father's safety, revealing the reason why she initially seemed so against Gligar Man was simply because she wanted to make sure her father was safe and didn't get into any reckless trouble. After this long-ass exposition dump, Mr. Parker and Latoya finally took Ash and the gang down to Gligar Man's secret lair. Gligar was already there waiting, and immediately jumped down to greet its trainer. When Ash looked around the lair and stated how cool he thought everything was, Mr. Parker suggested to Ash that he could potentially become his replacement, as although he knew that the town needed a Gligar Man, he knew that that didn't just have to be him, and stated that he was kind of getting ready to retire at this point. Although Ash does think it over for a bit, it was a bit tempting. He declines, stating that his dream of becoming a Pokémon master was more important to him. Brock then jumps in though, and he's like, "Yo, I'll be your replacement if you let me marry your daughter." Latoya thinks that this was a joke, telling Brock that there was no way he stood a chance with her, and that there was no way that he could possibly be Gligar Man. This broke Brock's heart immensely, more than it ever had been before, with the exception of Professor Ivy, obviously. Brock's crying is then cut off when the cave's alarm system goes off, startling Ash and the gang as videos come up showcasing the store's security camera footage and showing that Team Rocket had broken in and tied up several of the workers and were trying to put them into Metapod suits like the ones Meowth and James were wearing. Mr. Parker instantly puts on his Gligar Man costume and runs off to save his store, with Ash following, stating that he wanted to join Gligar Man on an adventure. They arrive to see that Team Rocket has absolutely made a mess of the store and all the merchandise, and Gligar Man instructs his Gligar to go attack, and Gligar does, this time attacking James in the face as opposed to Jesse. Before Gligar could do any serious damage, though, Meowth then revealed himself. Yeah, did you notice that he was missing from this whole thing? Well, that was because he was driving a huge-ass Spinnerack robot as he broke into the store and fired a web, which trapped Ash, Gligar Man, and Pikachu. Meowth then grabs the web with the Spinnerack robot and uses it to break out of the store's wall, destroying it in the process, and then he goes and hangs up the web on a lamppost in the middle of town, stating Team Rocket's plan to take off Gligar Man's mask and reveal his true identity in front of the entire town, who was currently watching the lamppost. Gligar Man panics, not wanting his true identity to be revealed, but then suddenly, the captured store workers manage to break free and run out of the store, encouraging Gligar Man to not give up, but addressing him as Mr. Parker, revealing that Mr. Parker's employees had known the truth about his Gligar Man identity all along, and still decided to stick by him. Gligar Man was both surprised and relieved by this, as the entire reason why he didn't want his identity to be revealed was because he thought they would make the entire town hate him for seemingly being a fraud, but he realized that people didn't care as long as he was actually doing good. Still, Gligar Man wasn't entirely panic-free at this point, as he was still about to be revealed to the entire town, and he didn't want that to happen, but suddenly, in a Deus Ex Machina moment, a new Gligar superhero showed up. Gligar Girl. She had appeared from the roof of the store, which Brock remarked was weird, as there was no one else in the store at that point, aside from Team Rocket and Ash and Gligar Man. Although, Brock realized that he had a crush on this girl as well, stating that Gligar kind of reminded him of Latoya a little bit, though he wasn't certain by any means. Even though it was totally obvious, especially when Glygirl called for Gligar's assistance, and Gligar came to her instantly, recognizing her. Glygirl then commands Gligar to cut Ash, Gligar Man, and Pikachu from the web, which he does, freeing them. With Pikachu free, he runs around Meowth's Spinnerack robot to try and divert it from shooting out any more webs, and this causes the Spinnerack robot's legs to get tangled up, making it unable to move. With Meowth now a sitting duck, Gligar focuses its attention on Jesse and James, shooting a poison sting at them. But then, even though the Spinnerack robot wasn't able to move, it was still able to shoot webs, so Meowth managed to shoot some out, but they were fortunately destroyed before they could catch anyone by Gligar's quick attack. Pikachu then fires a Thunderbolt at the Spinnerack robot, which causes it to explode and sends Team Rocket blasting off. Yay! The entire town was amazed by not only Pikachu's performance, but also Glygirl and Gligar Man's, and they proceed to give everyone a standing ovation. Yay! Yet again. Glygirl then makes her exit, as Brock tried to ask her who she was, still not fully believing that it was Latoya. Ash and Misty had realized that it was Latoya, though. I mean, it was pretty fucking obvious, and they tried to inform Brock of this, but he still refused to believe them. He eventually does realize, though, as Ash and the gang then meet up with Mr. Parker and Latoya, and Ash asks Latoya if she had always tried to help her father as Glygirl, or if this was a new thing, and Latoya simply replied that she saw a costume in the store and figured that she would put it on, knowing that her father was in trouble. So, no, this was definitely a new thing. She then clarified that her days of being a Glygirl would probably just end here. She only really intended to do it the one time. But Ash suggested that they work together, and when Gligar Man was finally ready to retire, then Gligar Girl could take over. Mr. Parker and Latoya both approve of this idea. However, they begin to argue over who should be Gligar's true owner in that case, as they both required a Gligar for their identities. They quickly realized, though, that they could just brand themselves as a Gligar duo and make do with only one Gligar. The episode then ends with Ash and the gang saying goodbye to Gligar Man, Glygirl, and all the store employees, with Gligar Man and Glygirl informing them that they could use that Gligar whistle any damn time.